I wasn't even supposed to be near the restaurant. My mom made it crystal clear, "If you show up, Betty, don't bother coming home." Her voice was colder than the April wind biting at my ankles as I stood half-hidden behind the tinted windows of my brother's stupid car, watching the glittering chaos of Dad's birthday dinner unfold without me. Everyone was there. My cousins, Dad's new girlfriend draped in something I'm sure was bought with my college fund, even my brother, who had once promised me he'd never take sides. But I guess promises are only as good as the silence you're willing to keep. And me. I was out here like some excommunicated criminal for a crime I didn't commit, branded the ungrateful daughter, the divider, the disappointment. I told myself I wouldn't cry. I repeated it like a mantra, pressing my forehead against the cool window glass and counting backwards from 10. But when I saw Mom laughing inside, actually laughing, I felt something split right down the middle of me. It should have been my dad's arm around my shoulder. It should have been me next to my brother, rolling my eyes at the same tired stories Dad tells every year. Instead, I was shivering on the sidewalk like a stranger to my own family. And that's when it happened. The passenger door swung open, startling me so badly I nearly screamed. My brother's best friend stepped out, adjusting the collar of his blazer like he had all the time in the world. He wasn't supposed to be here either, not according to the guest list Mom screamed at me about. He didn't look surprised to see me. No double take, no awkward hesitation. Just that same calm, unreadable expression he always wore around me, like he knew things no one else did. Then he smiled. Just a twitch of it, like he was in on a joke the universe hadn't let me hear. "Hi, boss." 2 words. That's it. But they hit me like a train. Not Betty, not hey, not what are you doing here, but hi, boss. Like I still had some kind of power. Like I hadn't lost every last piece of leverage in this twisted family chess game. I stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or burst into tears. Because in that moment, standing in heels too high for pavement and pride too bruised to hide, I realized something terrifying. Maybe I wasn't the only one who'd noticed the cracks in our perfect little family portrait. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as they wanted me to feel. It didn't start with yelling. It started with silence. The kind of silence that grows between people like mold, slow, creeping, invisible at first until suddenly everything smells rotten and no one wants to admit where the stench is coming from. That was our house after Dad left. Not explosive, not dramatic, just quiet, like grief no one dared name out loud. Mom barely spoke to me after the divorce papers came through. She talked at me. "Clean your room, Betty. Don't forget your shift. Did you really wear that to school?" But when it came to why she and Dad fell apart, why everything warm and good inside our home was suddenly replaced with cold dinners and colder stares, she had no words. Or rather, she had too many. Just not for me. She told everyone else, though. I found out the way people like me always do. Overheard conversations, whispered phone calls, that one aunt who can't keep a secret if her life depended on it. Apparently, I was the traitor. The ungrateful daughter who sided with the cheating parent. The one who knew what her father was doing and said nothing. The one who smiled too easily when Dad came around and who never, not once, called Mom a victim. But here's the thing, he didn't cheat. Not unless working late to pay for Mom's online furniture obsession counts as adultery. And I knew that because I saw it. I lived it. The receipts, the overdrawn credit cards, the way he'd fall asleep on the couch with his laptop still open to spreadsheets. He was exhausted, not unfaithful. But when I tried to say that, when I dared to explain, she turned on me like I'd spit in her face. "Of course you believe him," she said, eyes flashing. He always knew how to manipulate his little girl. That was the first time she slapped me. I didn't cry. Not then. I just walked upstairs, locked my door, and sat on my bed trying to breathe through the sound of my own heartbreaking. She never apologized. Not for the slap, not for the lie, not for turning my brother against me with half-truths and theatrical retellings. He used to be my best friend. My brother. We were only a year apart. Shared everything from bunk beds to bad grades. But somewhere between court hearings and whispered alliances, he stopped looking me in the eye. Stopped inviting me to his side of the story. He told me once, quietly, when she wasn't around. It's just easier to let her believe what she wants. Keeps the peace. Peace. That's what they called it. but it felt like exile. And then came Dad's birthday. Mom was hosting, of course, her way of proving to everyone that she could still play nice with the man who ruined her life. She made a show of planning it for weeks. She invited every branch of the family tree except one, the one that included me. When I asked her why I wasn't invited, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Because I don't trust you not to embarrass me." I wanted to scream. I wanted to show her every cruel thing she'd said, every twisted version of reality she'd fed the family. But I knew it wouldn't matter. In her world, I was the liar, the traitor, the mistake. So I didn't go. At least, I wasn't supposed to. He was always there, just on the edge of everything. The edge of our family photos, the edge of inside jokes, the edge of my damn nerves. My brother's best friend, Eli, if anyone's asking, had this way of slipping into our lives like he'd always belonged there. From the moment they met in high school, he was over almost every weekend, eating our snacks, borrowing our Wi-Fi, acting like part of the furniture. At first, I hated it. He was loud, cocky, the kind of guy who smirked when you were mad and called it banter. He once ate the last piece of my birthday cake and told me, dead serious, I was just making sure it wasn't poisoned. But over time, it got harder to hate him. Not because he changed, but because I saw the parts he didn't show anyone else. The way he stayed late to help my brother study, even when his own grades were slipping. The way he quietly fixed the leaky pipe under our sink because he overheard Mom complaining about it. And once, when I had a flu so bad I couldn't get out of bed, he left a bag of lemon tea and cough drops at my door. Didn't say a word about it. Just a sticky note with a smiley face and "Don't die, boss." Boss. That was his nickname for me. I hated it at first, thought he was mocking me because I always acted like I was in charge. But eventually, it became something else. A name no one else called me. A word that carried weight and affection and something almost dangerous. The shift between us wasn't sudden. There was no single moment where I looked at him and thought, "Oh no, I'm in trouble." It was a slow burn, a glance that lasted too long, a joke that hit too soft. That Christmas, when he helped me bring in the firewood and our hands brushed, he didn't pull away. Neither did I. There were 1,000 of those almost moments. The time he leaned across me to grab something from the counter and stopped just a little too close. The way he used to tease me about having main character energy, but said it like it was a compliment. The night we stayed up late watching some old sci-fi movie, and I caught him watching me instead. But we never crossed the line. Because there was always a line. My brother. The family. The rules. And besides, Mom hated him. She never said it outright, but it was obvious. She called him the wild card. She rolled her eyes when he made jokes and once accused him of encouraging disobedience when I came home after curfew. I think part of her saw what I refused to acknowledge, that Eli wasn't just my brother's best friend anymore. He was someone I trusted. Maybe the only person I trusted. The night the family finally fractured for good, it was Eli who found me sitting alone in the stairwell outside my dad's condo, mascara smudged, trying not to cry. I'd just been kicked out of Mom's house after another screaming match. He didn't say anything, just sat down next to me and offered me half a sandwich like we were in a lunchroom, not the middle of my emotional apocalypse. "People lie when they're scared," he said. "Doesn't make it okay. But it makes sense." I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't have to. He saw things. He noticed things. And for all his sarcasm and smug little smiles, he never tried to fix me the way everyone else did. He just stayed. That's why when he stepped out of that car at Dad's birthday and said, "Hi, boss," it wasn't just casual. It wasn't meaningless. It was a lifeline, a reminder that he'd been watching this whole time, and he still hadn't looked away. I didn't plan to walk in. I told myself I was just going to see. Just a glimpse. Just 5 minutes of standing on the sidewalk like some pathetic ex-guest, and then I'd leave with my dignity, still mostly intact. But Eli ruined that plan the second he opened the car door. "Hi, boss," he said, like no time had passed. Like I wasn't being held together by bobby pins and a borrowed coat. I blinked. "What are you doing here?" "Your brother invited me," he said, his voice neutral, like it wasn't laced with subtext. "Thought you'd be inside." I wasn't exactly on the guest list. He looked at me for a long beat, then leaned back against the car like we were just two people killing time, not exiles from the family dinner going on behind us. I waited for him to say something pitying, something soft. He didn't. "Want to go in?" he asked instead. I stared at him. "You serious? Why not? It's your dad's birthday, too." I laughed once, sharp and bitter. Mom would throw a steak knife at my face. He smiled like that wouldn't be a deal breaker. I'd block it. And then, without warning, he pushed off the car and started walking toward the restaurant. I hesitated, for half a second, and then I followed him. The moment we stepped into the restaurant, it was like someone pressed pause on the entire room. Forks hovered midair. Conversations choked off mid-sentence. Every eye turned to me, and none of them looked happy. Dad's smile faltered. My aunt dropped her wine glass onto the table with a sharp clink. And my mother, looked like she'd just seen a ghost wearing her jewelry. She stood slowly. "What is she doing here?" Eli stepped slightly in front of me, not enough to make a scene, just enough to make it clear he wasn't moving. "Invited guest," he said casually. "Didn't know there was a no-entry list." "She wasn't invited," Mum snapped, her voice low and vicious. "And she knows why." I could feel the heat rise in my face, but I kept my expression flat. "Actually, I don't. But thanks for making it official." My brother stood up next to Mum, avoiding my eyes. "Betty, maybe this isn't the right time." I looked at him. Really looked. The same boy who once built me a pillow fort when I had chickenpox. The same boy who taught me how to tie my shoes. And now, a stranger with my brother's face. "Of course it isn't," I said, calm but clear. "Because the right time never comes when you're not allowed in the room." Silence. And then Eli turned to me, not rushed, not performative, and said quietly, "You don't have to stay. But you also don't have to leave." It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't pressure. It was a choice. The first real one I'd been given in months. And just like that, the standoff wasn't between me and Mum. It wasn't even about the birthday. It was about whether I was still going to let them define me by a version of events they never had the guts to say to my face. So I did what no one expected. I walked past Eli, past my mother, past the judgmental stares and the strained politeness. I sat down in the only empty seat left, between my dad and an uncle I barely spoke to. And I smiled. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said. "Sorry I'm late." It was the most awkward dinner of my life. The clink of silverware was the loudest sound at the table, second only to the stiff cough from someone trying to pretend this was totally normal. I sat next to Dad, who kept sneaking glances at me like I might vanish. My brother hadn't said a word since I sat down. Mum hadn't either, but her wine glass was definitely getting more attention than the roast chicken. Eli stayed standing. Not in a showy way. Not dramatic. Just leaning against the bar near our table, arms crossed, like he was daring someone to try and eject him too. Like he knew something. And apparently he did. It started when Mum tried to reclaim the narrative. "You know," she said, smiling thinly to one of my aunts, "it's just been such a relief to have peace in the house again. Things are finally calm. No more walking on eggshells." She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't have to. My dad opened his mouth to speak, but Eli beat him to it. "Ha," he said. Not loud. Not angry. Just amused. "You mean since Betty left?" Mum turned to him, slow and tight-lipped. "Excuse me. I just think it's interesting," Eli continued, still leaning, still maddeningly relaxed. "How things are so calm now, considering what you've been telling everyone." She narrowed her eyes. "And what exactly have I been telling everyone, Eli?" He smiled. "That Betty knew about the affair. That she helped cover it up. That she chose sides." A few people at the table shifted uncomfortably. I felt my throat close, but I didn't speak. Not yet. Mum didn't deny it. She didn't have to. Her silence was a shrug. Eli went on. "Funny thing is, I found Dad's text history on an old backup server. You remember that shared cloud account you all used when Betty was in school? Yeah, apparently no one cleared it properly. There's a time-stamped archive of everything." Dead silence. "You know what I found," he said, walking forward now. Months of him begging for counseling. For therapy. For something. While you, he looked straight at Mum now, were buying retail therapy and sending flirty messages to a real estate agent. Mum's face turned to stone. "You don't know what you're talking about," she said. "You're not family." He stopped next to my chair. No, but I was around. I saw things, heard things, like how Betty never once lied. She just refused to lie for you. My heart was thudding, so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. My brother looked like he'd swallowed glass. And then, for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I spoke. Is that why you really kicked me out? I asked my mother, voice low but steady. Because I didn't tell everyone your version of the story. She didn't answer. She just blinked, furious and exposed, and maybe deep down afraid. And my brother finally spoke up. Mum, he said slowly, looking between us. Is that true? She turned to him, and I saw her expression change, soften, twist, manipulate. The same face she used on me 100 times. But it wasn't working now. Not with him. Not anymore. He looked at me, really looked, and said quietly, I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. It didn't fix the damage. But it was a start. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt since the night everything shattered. Vindicated. Eli didn't say anything else. He didn't have to. He just sat down next to me, calm as ever, and poured himself a glass of water like he hadn't just dropped a truth bomb in the middle of a family dinner. I looked at him. He looked at me. And I knew he'd had my back the whole time. The room didn't recover. After Eli's reveal, no one knew how to breathe properly. Forks had been set down, drinks forgotten. Mum looked like she was made of glass, flawless on the surface, but one word away from shattering. I thought that was it. That maybe, finally, the worst had passed. I was wrong. Because just as I reached for my water glass, Dad leaned toward me, just slightly, just enough for only me to hear, and whispered, There's something I need to tell you. I should have told you a long time ago. I froze. What? He looked straight ahead, not meeting my eyes. It wasn't just your mother who wanted you gone. The glass slipped slightly in my hand. What are you talking about? He exhaled through his nose like the truth weighed 1,000 pounds. There was a letter. For the court. About custody. It was supposed to be shared with both of you, you and your brother. Your mum asked me to keep quiet. But you need to know. She didn't just cut you out of the party. She tried to cut you out of everything. My stomach twisted. What letter? It said you were unstable, that you had manipulative tendencies and emotional outbursts, that you sided with me as a way to punish her. I went cold. She said I what? She submitted it during mediation. Said you shouldn't be given a choice to live with me. Said you were too volatile to be trusted. I stared at him. And you didn't tell me? I thought I was protecting you, he said. I thought she'd come around. I didn't want you to lose both parents at once. But that's exactly what happened. I stood up from the table without thinking. You let her turn everyone against me, I said, louder than I intended. You let her paint me as some unstable, vindictive kid when all I did was tell the truth. Across the table, my brother looked stunned. Wait, what letter? Eli stood too. Not out of drama, just instinct. Support, like he could feel me unraveling. I tried to find it, Dad said quickly. I looked when things got worse, but it was gone. She deleted the files, cleared her email, said I must have imagined it. She forged it, Eli said, voice low and flat, or paid someone to write it. That's why you could never prove anything. Mum's face turned pale, then red, then something in between. This is insane. You're all trying to humiliate me. You're twisting everything. Dad looked at her. Then show us the emails. Show us the archives. Let's check your cloud history. You still have access. And for the first time that night, she flinched. That was all we needed. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just stood up slowly, grabbed her clutch, and walked out, leaving her wine glass half full, her reputation bleeding out behind her, and the air in the room thick with silence. I didn't sit down right away. I couldn't, because in that moment, I realized something sickening. It had never been about choosing sides. It was about eliminating the one person who wouldn't play along. Me. All this time, I thought I'd been exiled because I didn't fall in line. But the truth was worse. They'd rewritten the story without me in it. My brother stood up next, slower this time, like he'd aged 10 years in the span of a dinner. I had no idea, he said. Betty, I didn't know. I looked at him. I wanted to scream, or run, or curl into a ball on the floor. But I didn't. I know, I said. That's the problem. After Mom left, no one said a word. It was like her absence had pressed a reset button on the room. Everything felt slightly off kilter, like a picture frame knocked askew. Nothing technically broken, but nothing quite right either. Dad tried to resume the dinner, awkwardly offering more wine and cracking a joke about cold potatoes. No one laughed. My brother sat across from me, wrecked. I could see it in the way his hands shook slightly when he picked up his fork. He kept glancing at me, like he wanted to say more, but didn't know where to start. I didn't give him an easy out. Some silences shouldn't be filled. Instead, I stood. Everyone looked up. I didn't make a scene. I didn't deliver a dramatic monologue or throw a glass of wine in anyone's face, though, God, the temptation was there. I just looked at my dad. "Thanks for the seat," I said. "And the truth." Finally, he nodded. Regret, deep and honest, etched into the corners of his face. "You deserved it sooner." I didn't reply. I turned to leave, and Eli followed. We walked in silence through the parking lot, the cool night air finally sobering the adrenaline still humming in my veins. My heels clicked against the pavement, but he didn't rush me. Just walked beside me like he always did, close enough to feel, but not enough to trap. At the car, I paused. "So what now?" I asked, half to him, half to myself. He leaned against the door. "Now you get to choose." I looked at him. Choose what? Between the people who lied to me and the people who let them? He didn't answer right away. Just held my gaze. Steady. Sure. And then, "No. You choose yourself." That hit harder than it should have, because for the first time, it didn't feel like I had to fix anything. Or anyone. I didn't have to explain, or forgive, or go back inside and smile through gritted teeth. I could just leave, reclaim the silence, reclaim myself. I opened the passenger door, but before I got in, I turned back to Eli. "Do you mean what you said in there? About having my back?" He tilted his head. "Have I ever lied to you?" "No," I said. "But this is different." He stepped closer, not too close, just enough that I could smell the faded trace of his cologne. His voice dropped, almost a whisper. "I'm in if you are." My heart did something reckless. I nodded. "Then drive." He grinned, just slightly, and walked around to the driver's side. As we pulled out of the parking lot, I didn't look back. Not at the restaurant. Not at the broken pieces behind me. Because sometimes, the real revenge isn't slamming the door behind you. It's not needing the house at all.